Hello everybody, and welcome back to Let's Play Diddy Kong Racing. Today it's crunch time.
Snowflake Mountain.
Welcome to Snowflake Mountain. Krunch has an awesome horn, and let's meet TT.
Hi there, I'm TT.
TT's function is basically he can tell us our game status, how many balloons we have, the keys, trophies, pieces of amulets, that kind of thing. He can also activate time trial mode within adventure mode. There's a point to that, but we won't be seeing it until a bit later. Right now, it's race time, so let's head to Everfrost Peak.
Everfrost Peak.
Everfrost Peak is a very easy track for Krunch, because Krunch's problems when it comes to handling really only apply to cars and cars, basically. Krunch has serious handling problems in cars, which we'll see later, but the sharp turn ability of the plane and the generally wide and open nature of most plane tracks allows Krunch to make the most of his huge top speed and not really be too bothered by his bad acceleration and bad handling. This track is really very simple. It's a figure of 8, there are some zippers, there are red and blue balloons dotted around the place. It's not particularly interesting. The only real challenge comes from this little dip here, and also the fact that occasionally I forget what the accelerator is. Krunch is a Kremling, which may seem a bit weird to be in a Diddy Kong game, but it actually is covered in the story, in the manual, and the story in this game is absolutely demented. The basic idea behind Krunch being on the island is that he was part of a Kremling scouting party that was sent to spy on Diddy Kong. So when he saw Diddy heading off to Timber's Island, he decided to follow him, and that's how Krunch has ended up here. I've no idea why he's racing to help get rid of Wizpig. You'd have thought with the Kremlings being evil and all that, he would be on Wizpig's side, but there's Kremlings for you. You'll notice there as well, planes can use ground zippers. When they get close enough to the ground, the wheels come out to the bottom. Just a bit of Taj action for the video. We are up to 8 balloons. Nothing else to do except race in this video, so quick turn, forget which door's next, and on to Walrus Cove. This track is really nasty for the heavyweights. Both Krunch and Banjo have problems with it, and you'll notice here in this 4th grid position, it will start you pointing directly at that wall. It's the first real design oversight you see from this game, the fact that they didn't make that opening straight wide enough to accommodate all four rows of the grid. So this track's major discerning feature is that giant loop. You'll boost automatically when you go over the loop, so there's never any danger of not making it. And then there's also this corner, which is a bitch and a half. It's an outward camber, and unless you are really careful with your accelerator or really good with the skid, you're going to end up sliding out and effectively scraping along that wall. There's something special about that ice. We'll see it in the next track. But it is not ice you want to touch. It is not forgiving at all, especially not when you're somewhat turning challenged. So you notice here, instead of using skids, I'm using brakes to get around corners with Krunch. This is the technique I found to be most effective. Krunch's skid is not useful when it comes to getting around corners. He doesn't get a huge boost to his turning ability. So it's much more useful. It's much easier, really, to just brake, take the speed hit, and hope that his high top speed can compensate for the time you lose. He's kind of useful for that ending straight because some of the slower characters don't have the top speed to get over those little jumps, which means they'll end up hitting the ice, and that, as I've already mentioned, is something you do not want. There's Timber getting all up in our business. But back to the game's story. The basic idea behind why Wizpig invaded Timber's island is quite hilarious. Basically, Wizpig was bored. That is the extent of what this game's story comes down to. Wizpig was bored, and he decided to invade. Timber there getting out of a race. That's really the first real race we've seen, and I think the vast majority of that was down to Krunch. Really on that track, if you come round the final corner and you have the first person in relatively close distance, you're gonna be able to take him with Krunch's pure top speed. So that's 2 out of 4. Next up is Snowball Valley.
Snowball Valley.
So here you see that ice again. There you go. If you touch the ice, you will lose all forward momentum and just bounce until you get back on the track. On higher, against tougher opponents, it is the kiss of death for your race. Off to the side here is this little area where we find the TT key. I don't think it's actually possible to get the TT key and win the race, so we're going to have some magic of editing. Once again, we'll be dealing with that next time. But we still have a balloon to get up in here, so we'll reverse back in. You'll notice the complete lack of boost. I was focusing a bit too much on the boost and ended up being a bit late, so I ended up getting nothing. That's the main feature of this track, those snowballs. They roll down this hill area and will squash you. It is something rather nasty to be wary of. But you'll notice at the beginning of at the entrance to the area, there are a pair of shield balloons. It really is kind of necessary that you grab those shields. You see up there, there's some snow sculptures of Pipsy, Bumper and Krunch. That's one of those great little details that it was kind of unique to rare games this time. You'll see little touches like that, like Nintendo logos and rare logos dotted around the track. More ice bouncing, and Banjo getting all up in our business. The alternate path you can see there is not really something that's of any consequence on the regular balloon race. It will come into play for the silver coin run, but with a character like Krunch, you just want to take the main route. It's not that much of a shortcut. No Taj action here, you'll notice, because I won this race once and had it riddled with capture errors, so we get no Taj action. I hope we can make up for that in the final track of the video. So Frosty Village is an absolute nightmare of a track. All of the zippers on this track are placed in a way to make it damn near impossible for the heavyweights to really get them unless you're hugely anticipating the turns. They're all on the inside of corners, and the heavyweights handling just puts them always to the outside edge. I notice here, again, N64 draw distance. It is a constant problem throughout the console's life, and it is no different here. You can see a little tunnel off to the side there. That's a hovercraft specific area. When you complete a track in adventure mode with the default vehicle, the next time you go into it, you'll have the option of what vehicle you want to use for it. You don't have that option going into the silver coin challenges, but it's nice in these levels. It's nice in a lot of these tracks that they decided to put alternate routes that only a certain vehicle can go through. It's nice to kind of encourage you to experiment with the different vehicles on each track to figure out which one you like the most. Notice that zipper there. It's not that. That's probably the best zipper in the race because it's at the start of a massive straight. It's not too obnoxiously placed. There's really little chance of you screwing up if you hit that. Someone there's dropped a balloon and a spike ball. I was being very careful of mines on this track because, like I've said, this is a very twisty track, so Krunch's top speed doesn't really end up being much of a benefit. But we got through it, crossing the finish line. I was very grateful when I finally got that win. So that is our 10th balloon. It might be our 11th balloon. It's definitely not our 13th balloon. You can ignore that. The boss is open. We will be dealing with that next time. But until then, goodbye everybody.